Good evening to all of you. I'm Dulanji Perera from University of Kelaniya, Sri Lanka. Today, I am presenting you our research Moving from Lean to Leagile, a framework to improve supply chain performance of fashion garments manufacturing. This is the overview of my presentation today. First, a brief introduction to the research, then the research methodology, then the analysis will be explained. After that, findings of our research will be presented with its managerial implications. Sri Lankan apparel industry generates 3.2 to 4.9 million US dollars business value by catering to the major global markets like US, UK, Italy, Germany and so on. It provides direct and indirect employment opportunities over 900,000 in Sri Lanka. Apparel contribution towards total merchandise exports in Sri Lanka is 43.9% by 2019. Therefore, it is much important to conduct researches to improve performance of apparel sector in countries like Sri Lanka. As all of you may know, Lean is essentially about removal of waste and Agile is about flexibility and responsiveness. However, some previous studies say that many organizations that implemented only Lean have experienced a limited success in achieving improvements. They have mentioned that a lean-focused supply chain model seems incomplete as agility becomes a desired factor. So now, the global focus is on hybrid supply chain practices to achieve greater competitive advantages. Apparel industry is now much familiar with lean practices and sometimes they give an agile touch consciously or unconsciously to their operations. Knowledge regarding lean and agile are available both locally and globally. The industry awareness is about lean is high, but industry awareness of agile practices seems very low, so that the existing knowledge gap has to be filled. Therefore, the appropriateness of hybrid concept of a Leagile supply chain model for fashion garments manufacturing is explored through our research using the existing literature. For that, our research followed this methodology. First, the research questions were formulated. Then, we defined the research objectives to answer each research question. And then we identified relevant literature, structured the review, and finally, the model is developed for future research purposes. We identified the relevant literature for our research with 3 screening phases. At screening phase 1, only the keyword search is conducted considering the keywords such as Leagile, supply chain practices, supply chain performance, apparel, drivers, barriers, lean, agile and fashion, and we considered 10 years of time period from 1999 to 2019. From this we found 162 articles. Those articles were then again forwarded to the screening phase 2 where we evaluated the title, abstract and keywords with regard to the relevance to our study. Through that we found 100 articles that are again forwarded to the final screening stage, screening phase 3. Finally, all 100 articles were fully evaluated twice, carefully reading the whole article. That ended resulting 46 selected articles for our analysis. Here it shows the number of articles that have been selected from each database, and this indicates the percentage of articles that have been selected from each database. Then the next step of our research was to structure the literature review. And those selected articles were carefully examined under 3 spheres. Those are the Leagile practices, supply chain performance, internal and external environmental factors. After carefully examining the papers, we summarized it into a table with the most important point, such as the research domain, published year, title, authors, methodology, findings, and if there are any important facts, those were also taken into consideration. This summary table later contributed to the conceptual designing and the data analysis stage. Then finally, we developed the conceptual model using 30 articles from the 46 articles that have been selected through our screening funnel, and the rest of the articles contributed to rendering knowledge, further knowledge to the research phenomenon that brought into the discussion and review purposes. So let's move on to the literature review. These are some key literature points that we found. Literature says that pure leanness or pure agility is rarely found in real-world scenarios. And they say that agility enables the cost-effectiveness of the upstream chain while increasing the service level in the downstream. Many literature stated that leanness and agility have many overlapping features. Also, they mentioned the decoupling point or the changing point from lean to agile is solely based on nature of the product that you offer and the market demand. When considering supply chain performance, literature clearly stated that it is influenced by the supply chain context, and lean and agile concepts are vital capabilities to compete in the business environment. According to the past researchers, agility makes the organization perform faster and even better. Those improvements are indicated in firms' financial performance, schedule performance, operational performance, and the environmental performance. So, when considering the external and internal business environment, literature emphasizes that the main drivers for supply chain agility are competitive market pressure, uncertain environment, service level, and the pressure for cost reduction. So, according to the literature, they say that only through understanding business characteristics, the correct supply chain strategy can be designed to ensure the optimal performance. So, after all, we found some key facts from literature review, and this is kind of a summary of our literature review. So it says that Leagile practices are desired in volatile business environments with lower cost structures. Leagile practices directly impact on financial performance, operational performance, schedule performance, and environmental performance. Organizations have to focus on its macro environment or the external environmental factors when implementing a supply chain strategy. And even the micro environmental support, that means the internal environmental support, is also crucial when implementing a supply chain strategy. So after analyzing all those literature, we team ended up with this conceptual framework after analyzing all relevant literature. So, according to this model, Leagile practices improve supply chain performance, and external business environmental factors act as a moderator to the improvement of supply chain performance through Leagile practices. And also, the internal business environmental factors act as a moderator to the supply chain performance improvement that happens through the Leagile practices. So, even we actually found indicators also for this conceptual model for each variable in that proposed conceptual framework. So these indicators are also found through our literature review. When we take in these indicators, we make sure that these indicators are at least stated in two literature, like all of these indicators are the most recommended indicators for identified variables. So the indicators for Leagile practices are HR practices, just in time, total quality management, total productive maintenance, infrastructure, waste reduction, continuous improvement, customer interaction, flexibility, postponement, supply relationship management, and finally the information integration. And the indicators that we found for external business environment are competition, environmental uncertainty, and pressure to reduce cost. The indicators that we found for internal business environment are supply chain support, production support, and financial support. Finally, we found indicators for supply chain performance as financial performance, operational performance, schedule performance, and environmental performance. So these are the managerial implications of our model. This model can be used when implementing a new supply chain strategy to analyze the environment and make decisions, and can identify the feasibility of new implementation under each factor mentioned in the proposed model. Also, this model acts as an analytical framework to analyze the impact of existing supply chain practices. That means you can find out how your existing practices contribute to your supply chain performance, whether they are important or not. So that marks the end of my presentation. Thank you all for listening throughout my presentation, and these are the references for our research. So thank you once again. Have a nice evening.